I am so pleased to welcome back my next guest, Adam Bartholomew. Adam, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Jason?
I'm very well. Everybody remembers you joined us shortly after the horrible murder of Charlie Kirk. And you really, Adam, I can't overstate this. You really are the lead reporter on this historic incident. It was your not only ingenuity in developing the system with the triple redundancy that allowed you to survive what appears to be a Bluetooth low energy exploit from the U.S. Army, you had no fear in the face of gunfire. You ran right up to the balcony with no idea if you yourself could be shot. Obviously, you checked on your family first. You're a heroic guy. You are absolutely the Abraham Zapruder of this incident, but you're also like the Woodward and Bernstein. I mean, we wouldn't know any of the things that we know. Everybody has been publishing all kinds of video of people taking cameras down and taking SD cards out of cameras, but I don't think enough people realize that all of this material came from your Life is Driving X account and YouTube channel. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's correct. I'm just going to walk here as I talk. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, and we should tell people you're back on
Yeah.
UVU campus. This is important.
Yeah, I'm here live at UVU on the campus. I just walked on, and yeah, this was all during my X my Twitter and YouTube live stream at the time, and I was there to stream the counter protesters. So that's my kind of my thing. That's what I do as I report on, because I don't think that there's anybody really kind of getting the perspective of these people. And so I make it a point, I make a commitment to show up and film the local protests, because I think it's important to let people really know what's happening out on the street. And a good example of that is, which actually got me into this in the first place, was, I don't know if you remember the Chaz Chop Zone during the lockdowns in 2020 in Seattle.
Yeah.
So at the time, there was a famous picture of a guy with masks, and he's an Antifa guy with an assault rifle guarding the barricade to to the zone. And CNN had reported that was fake, that was manufactured by Fox News, and I had seen it with my own eyes the previous night. And so I went out with my camera and decided I was just going to try and get the real story on there. And that's kind of how this all began. So I was there
Wow.
to just capture this counter protest, that I think it's important to give these guys a little bit of a platform. And because most of the time, I don't think anybody's ever asked them to their face to kind of explain their reasoning for standing up on a balcony chanting F Charlie Kirk. So
Right.
that's why I was there.
You know, it's interesting though, because we saw some video from your Life is Driving YouTube live stream, and also the redundant recording that you made that saved the whole thing. And those guys that you were talking to, they were a lot nicer than counter protesters that I run into in New York City. I mean, they seemed like pretty polite college students, at least the ones that you were talking to, don't you think?
Correct. Yeah, I think those guys were definitely a lot more polite, a lot nicer. I don't think that they had been radicalized to the degree that a lot of these Antifa types have. That previous events up in Seattle, they would show up to our events and knock over our cameras and squirt bottles of pee on our
Oh my God.
bottles of urine on our equipment.
Oh my God.
They do. My profile picture on Twitter is from one such event, actually. So,
Huh. A urine
yeah,
squirt.
these
Oh
guys
my
were
God, look
definitely
at that.
a lot. These guys were definitely, more polite than this gentleman here that you see in that picture.
Right.
So
And they had
I'm
wasps
going to turn
buzzing
my
their
camera, if
hair.
that's all right.
Yeah, that would be great. We want to see what's going on there on campus. So give us a little shot, see what we got here. So give
Oh,
us
I'm
some.
here right now. I'm walking up here in the front, the west side of the campus, and you can see the sky bridge here that that was right above Charlie Kirk's head. I'm approaching it right now. This is where his vehicle would have been parked when they retreated to the vehicle on their way to the hospital. It would have been
Okay.
right up here past these golf carts that we're about to come up on. So
Now, let me ask you this, Adam. Are
let's see
you
here.
able to enter the overpass, that little tunnel area that was just behind where Charlie Kirk was? Because I want to get an idea of what that looks like, and if you're standing all the way on the right edge of it. Yeah, there it is. We can see it. So do you think that
There it
there
is.
could
Yeah,
have...
I'm walking up on it right now.
Okay. What I'd like to ask you to do, if you can, if it'll let you, it looks like it's closed off. Huh.
Let me
Yeah,
ask this
don't...
gentleman right here.
Sure.
Hello, sir. Am I able to get up on this gravel? Like if I went up on the grass right there, then I'd be able to come down. I just didn't want to go through here. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. Thanks for your service. Okay, so we can.
Always polite.
I can definitely. He said I can go up there and I can come down here as long as I don't come down to this retaining wall. I stay
Got
up
it.
there. We should be fine.
Let's try and do that if you're comfortable
So,
with it, because I want to look
want to do
in
that right
there.
now? Okay, let's
Well,
do it right now.
whenever you're comfortable, Adam. I don't want to boss you around. You're just
Yeah.
so generous with your time, and I appreciate all the hard work that you've done. I hope that people will follow you on X at Life is Driving, follow your YouTube channel, Life is Driving, and you're also
So I
involved.
think. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say the other channels that you're doing. You've got your kmmu.org is another thing that you're involved in, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm partnered with Main Street Media Utah. They're at Media Utah on Twitter and kmmu.org. We're a local independent startup trying to give Main Street a voice. Like I said, counter the Main Street Media narrative as much as possible with real stories, real facts from on the ground, Main Street, Utah, USA. So that's who we're partnered with. So definitely give us a follow over there. Typically, when I stream live, I duplicate my stream to their channels as well. So, and they're kind enough to facilitate me with some media credentials and passes and some live streaming software that really helps when I'm doing a mobile stream with Republican events and stuff like that. So
That's great.
yeah, here we are. We're at the top of this gravelly slope here. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed down this slope. Okay.
Yes.
So
the idea is, I'm curious
I
to
wonder
know
if this is more stabilized than. Sorry, we're talking over each other. My apologies.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I think we had a little delay from the Bluetooth, but I'm just curious to know if somebody positioned right there where you're headed, if they could have, gotten a bead on Charlie, because obviously everybody has heard my theory, the evidence that I've looked at. Seems like there's video evidence that a projectile hit Charlie from behind, and I just don't know exactly where it would have been fired from. Now, if you stick your camera just a little bit to the left there, looking towards where Charlie was seated, do we get a straight line to where he was
So just
seated?
to give you an idea, I'm going to flip the camera around here, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We're going to do this. Okay, here we go. So just to give you an idea of where I'm at, I'm going to flip this around. Okay. So I am right here at the edge of this retaining wall. You can see that, I hope.
Yep.
So I'm going to set the tripod right. Let me go down a little more. Right there on that retaining wall. That's where the tripod will be seated. Okay.
Sure.
So we're going to go ahead and do that. The sun is right on me.
Yeah, it's a nice day there in Utah.
Okay, here we go. So
now you were really spending a lot of
tripod.
time there. Sorry, Adam. You spent a lot of time there, so you had a good sense of where Charlie was seated. Now, I think there was was there a wall in the middle there? Or, I mean, it looks like there's a clear, we had the white back to the tent, of course.
There is that pillar. His tent would have been right up where those flower pots are next to the pillar. He would have been positioned right there.
Does it look to you like someone could have shot him behind the ear from right there, or no?
With the tent being in the way, the wall of the tent, to me, I'm not convinced.
Hmm.
That's just me, though. I think that's an important point to make, that you and I disagree on
Sure.
theories here, but we can still have a civil discussion.
Wait, before you walk away from there,
And
can
go,
we, before you move away from that spot, Adam,
yeah,
can we look at
so
the
we get a
ceiling in
better angle
there?
to here.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Oh, so you're even further back. You're saying somebody might have been able to, wow, I hadn't even thought of that. So wow, wait a minute now. So there is potentially an angle somewhere back here, maybe not right up there, but you got all this space back here. Now, when you go back over there, Adam, if you see the ceiling inside,
Yeah, do that.
because it looked like there were some vents and things. I mean, maybe we're getting a little bit to the fantastic as far as things coming out of the ceiling, but you might have just hit it if somebody walked further back. And again, remember, there was a camera. I don't know if you can see, there was some construction going on those ceiling panels there. Do they look to you with your eyes like they can open or no?
No, they're just like stucco panels.
Uh-huh.
Let me just creep over here a little bit.
And do we have a security camera there in the middle? What is that in the middle?
So they look like stucco panels, and they're probably removable, I would imagine, to give access to the underside plumbing and hardware that goes across this sky bridge, would be my guess.
Uh-huh.
So I would imagine they do come down, and that's why they need to be resurfaced from time to time. But I don't. I mean, you can see how much room you'd have in there. Not very much compared to my hand up
Sure.
here. So,
Oh, you're saying, so that's the building.
here.
Right. It's pretty thin.
Yeah.
It's the floor,
So,
basically, and some pipes, maybe.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm. But certainly someone could have been in that tunnel, standing inside the tunnel. There's some area in there that they might have been able to. And again, you're free to disagree. I'm just speculating. It's pretty interesting. What do you think about all the construction they've done on this site since the event?
My understanding is that the construction was underway. They paused until they were given permission. That's what I've been told. But I know that a lot of people are confused by that. And I heard that the FBI cut out a square yard of grass, and so they just went with the pavers here. But
So the FBI took the grass
obviously
to investigate, and that's why the school paved over.
a portion of it, yeah. And so they yeah.
That actually seems far less sinister if the FBI takes it to investigate and then the school paves over, so it's not a big empty chunk of grass there. That seems sort of far less sinister. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, Adam, I don't know if you've had a chance to see this morning, but Bubba's Lamb Chop Shop, who is a follower of I Am John Cullen and Crowdsource the Truth, Bubba's Lamb Chop Shop user on X found another video that actually has you in it and also seems to show another angle of what we believe to be a drone. And again, I'm not speaking for you. You're free to disagree, look at this evidence, and come to a different conclusion.
Did that camera? I saw that, and that definitely is some interesting footage. Does that footage cut out like mine did?
Well, it doesn't.
It seemed to cut out.
This one didn't. So I have one video where somebody else does cut out, and this TikTok user, I forget her name,
maybe I saw a different one. Yeah, I saw one that corroborated the cutting out.
Yeah, we have that. And then this is a guy who did not cut out, but he's rolling when everybody's running out, and he captures this item that seems to be coincident with your capturing of a drone, I allege, doing a reconnaissance flight over the site after Charlie was killed. And the evidence that I use to make that statement is that, first of all, there's no visible wing flapping in your video or this video. We see you in your position. I guess you were on the sky bridge. Is that it?
That's correct, yeah.
So we see you
Yeah,
there.
the object that you found is the only one that, to me, I can't answer with my own brain, rationally. So,
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're
Well,
at.
this is a good position here. Where are you here now?
So now I was previously just right there on that corner right there. So now we are directly behind the trap doors from Canada Felons, and
Right.
the tent was positioned just, I want to say, a yard from the edge of this. I want to say that I was looking at the pictures that I was looking at. I think the tent was about a yard away from there, so which means Charlie would have been closer to this pillar or a little bit farther that way, maybe a yard past this pillar, I want to say.
And so where the grass begins now, where was he seated relative to where the grass line is right now?
The grass used to come all the way to this curb here that you can see in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see here. So his tent, so if we look at this power box here, the utility access box, his tent was about a yard from there, I believe. So I think his tent would have been the tent wall would have started right about where that second flower box is. So his tent was kind of adjacent to this planter box, but over here, the utility box here, but it was over this way. So that's where he was positioned there. I think Charlie was probably positioned a couple of feet past this pillar and right in the middle of these paver stones. Is right about where the fourth, you can see it back there. I think that fourth one would be just about a foot or two behind the position where Charlie Kirk would have been positioned.
Mm-hmm. And we can see from the videos, his chair, it's a few feet forward of the tent wall, which is sort of just in front of the concrete wall. He's maybe 6 or maybe more like 10 feet ahead of the wall. I don't know if you can see on your screen share there where I've got the image up.
I think that's a big, a pretty decent sized tent. So we move over here a little bit. Now it's all cordoned off, so I can't get to that position, but you can see here.
Yeah. Boy, it sure looks like you could have gotten a shot from somewhere on that gravel, doesn't it?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the only problem would have been the tent wall. Obviously, that's not going to be, but that would have obstructed any view from.
Well, this is what I wanted to raise.
I
don't know if sorry to interrupt you again. I don't know if I've raised this with you, Adam, but of course, everybody has been talking about this camera that was behind Charlie. You've seen the camera, right? A lot of people were thinking this was a super secret Israeli murder camera. I don't think so. I think it was probably a regular camera. I don't know who was operating. I don't mean to implicate or absolve anyone. I'm just saying I think it was operating like a regular camera. Candace Owens told us she saw video from this camera. I think this would have been used as a targeting camera because, as you just pointed out, it's pretty far back there to actually use your eyeballs to aim at a target this far away. But if you had some sort of targeting app on your phone, and these do exist, we've seen something called Long Shot, which uses Wi-Fi cameras downrange to give you sort of assisted targeting. What do you think about that notion? If somebody was using this 4K camera in the tent to actually target the back of Charlie's head, could they have been back there on that gravel and make a shot somehow? Sort of superhuman assistance.
Yeah, I mean, that to me, how do I put this? I'm no expert, so who knows? But that would be way more sophisticated and technically challenging than anything I would be capable of. In my opinion. So I don't know if it's I'm not an expert on that kind of thing as far as a remote guidance, or not a remote guidance, but what you were just talking about, the idea of using the camera.
So, but we've got you on record now.
Possible, and
we've got you on record. You're not
possible, I guess.
not a professional assassin. You're not a professional assassin. You're not involved in targeting cameras. But I do want you to see this. This is the Long Shot company, and they are in the business of having these Wi-Fi cameras downrange, giving you a very large blow-up of a very distant target, and having an app that assists you in targeting. This is what this technology is all about. So I'm just saying, if we've got a camera right behind his
I
head.
think my cousin has some of this stuff.
So doesn't it seem to
I think my
suggest
cousin
that,
has some of this kind of stuff.
doesn't it seem to suggest that something like that at least could have been used?
I mean, anything's possible for sure. When I look at the footage of what happened, and I'm back here, revisiting it, there would obviously have to be something to deceive the masses here that witnessed and heard this, this thing happen. So I don't know. I'm perhaps not the best person for that kind of discussion, but.
Well, just your personal opinion, of course. And again, you're obviously free to disagree with whatever I think. Again, it just seems there is. Like I said previously, for probably maybe the first time in my life, I don't know. I'm on the official narrative right now. A lot of people say, "Oh, that's pathetic," or whatever, but. I have yet to see anything that's personally convinced me, and I think that the people that are running this investigation are friends of Charlie Kirk. So I'm hoping they're going to do right by us. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that genuinely want to figure this out and find out what happened to this person that was so influential. So I'm not going to throw shade either way personally, but I think that anything's possible. Absolutely. Now, are there any other locations there around campus that you think we should take a look at?
Take a look. Go walk around, back up this way. The whole amphitheater is kind of closed off. We can only go around the perimeter, so
right.
Let's do that.
Have you spoken to any other people who shot video there that day?
I've had a brief exchange with somebody that did shoot some video, and I got somebody else sent me a little clip that they had shot. I reposted it on X, showing the TPUSA people right immediately after, offering comfort and their testimonies and that kind of thing. So that was definitely kind of cool. Oh, there's a second memorial up here. Hey, how's it going?
Huh.
Yes. You're who?
I'm Connor. So I'm 500.
Oh, hey, nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Cool. Yeah, I'm live with Jason Goodman here. Yeah. So we're going over kind of some angles and seeing what we can find here.
Conspiracy theories.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that person know
just trying to dispel some false notions here, I think, and maybe get some truth out of it. But yeah, running into a fellow X user here. So.
Oh, there you go. Who is that? Is it somebody that I know?
Can I announce who you are on the camera?
I don't really care.
Yeah. It's Flat Ranger, Utah.
Okay.
I go to for all my gun questions.
Does he know Samir Masi?
Oh. You know Samir Muncie?
What?
Samir Muncie?
I have no idea.
No, he has no idea.
No problem.
So, but I don't know. This is Jason Goodman. So, yeah, good to meet you in person, man. Yeah. So yeah, this is there's a huge memorial out front of UVU right now, and I was not aware that there's another one here in the courtyard. So this is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Have you had any interaction, Adam, with anybody at UVU Review? Obviously, your video, the live video, and the redundant recorded video that you created, it's gotten millions and millions of views. I think 6 million plus on YouTube, right?
Correct. Yeah. And there's many other users that have. I saw one that had over 100 million views on clips from my video.
Wow. So that's a little frustrating. You do all this hard work, spend all this money putting together your system, and then people are just clipping your video. I hope they're giving you credit.
The vast majority have been, like kind enough like yourself to give me recognition there. But, really the fault lies with me, as with most problems in my life, that I didn't watermark it. I started, I'm almost done with a synced up version, but I thought about doing that and watermarking it ahead of time and before I uploaded it, but I uploaded the raw footage. At the time, to me, it felt like the right thing to do. So I'm disappointed with some of the stuff that's been generated from it. And like, Candace Owens taking my footage and using it to gin up controversy with, like right now, she's doing one with one of the TPUSA guys that interrupted one of my interviews after the fact. And she's got his picture up there. As soon as the name goes out there, this has happened with the other people that she's named on her show. They get inundated with death threats and conspiracies. And
wow.
I mean, I mean, I've even, without even being on any of her shows, she just used my footage, but she's never credited me 3 times now that I know of. But even just my own footage being out there, I've had people make conspiracies about me and throw insults and hate my way and that kind of thing. But the people who've been named on her, that are just citizens that happened to be here to see Charlie Kirk. A lot of people wanted to just come and see him speak, like my own wife and my own kid. They just wanted to see Charlie. And so those people happen to be here. They happen to talk to the news. They get named on her show. I think it's a little bit irresponsible the way she's been covering that, because they end up getting just trashed online. And like I said, inundated with death threats. And I think it's dangerous. So I've, with that, in that regard, I've actually had some regret with, this whole thing, like, because of the, at the end of the day, this kind of stuff has been generated from my footage. And so I kind of feel like, anyway, it's disappointing to see some of the stuff that's happened, that way. I wish it wouldn't happen, but
well, I
at the end of the day, we can't
encourage
control
you.
what other people do,
Yeah, I would encourage you to not feel bad about what other people do, Adam. I think you were heroic on that day. And I mean, honestly, I think that the work that you did goes down in history. We would just not know so many of the things that we now know about what happened that day. I think it's going to be very important to learn. I'm not trying to disparage anybody, but if somebody removed evidence from that site, I mean, we have this image in today's thumbnail where I'm highlighting this guy who removed the SD card. Did you have any sense while that was being removed that it was perhaps something that shouldn't be done?
No, I kind of look at it like my own footage. I removed my own footage from the site and I left, and then I uploaded it, and then I submitted a tip. The FBI reached out and they got my footage. So there's no chain of custody, broken there. If he's the guy that's in charge of managing those cameras, it seems to me perfectly logical that he would pull the SD card out and hand it over to somebody with, some authority. I don't think those guys had crime scene etiquette, as the first thing on their mind. They just lost their boss. And,
but I mean, you didn't.
So I think, you're like, well, in my mind, it's kind of like following a car crash. You're getting in a car crash, somebody's hurt, and you're fine. EMTs come and go, and then you're left with this mess, and you're like, well, what do I do? I guess I might as well pick up my belongings that have flown into 1,000 pieces around me. And you're just you're in a state of shock, and you just start doing what you normally do. And I think that, to me, seems like the most logical, answer to that question.
But of course, you didn't move around the chair that Charlie Kirk was sitting on when he was murdered to remove your footage. You weren't embedded in the murder. Now, hang on just a second.
You're right. Now, that's a different piece of evidence, yes. But as far as the chain of custody for his thing, I don't think that, if he's the guy that's in charge of managing it, it seems to me that the chain of custody is not broken, until if some other random person had come up and tampered with it, maybe that would be the case. But
he could still testify that the card.
Charges.
He could still testify the card was under his control the whole time, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
let me ask you this: behind you,
we don't know.
Above
we
the
only
windows,
know what they've told us. So
behind you, above the windows, we have these things that look like vents. Can you tell what those are? Can we zoom in on that at all with this camera?
Yeah, I think we can probably do some stuff here. Let me turn the camera back around. Okay, so let me raise up my tripod a little bit.
Because remember, we had Blake Bednards claiming that a drone flew out of these vents. It doesn't really look to me like the type of thing that could
I'm holding
happen.
the tripod about 6 feet above my head now. Is that a good view?
It is, and I see we've got we've got a net in front of there that would seem to prevent any drone of even the smallest size from coming out of
Well,
there.
some of them have a mesh. The ones that have that need to be ventilated have that mesh. The other ones are solid like this.
I see. Completely closed. But there's no drones flying out of
Oh,
there
here's
too
another
easily, I wouldn't think. Would you?
No,
Doesn't look
definitely
like
not.
it. I took a lot of heat from some people for saying I don't think a drone is coming out of there. This is a great investigation, Adam. It's just, I mean, again, what you were saying before, I know what you mean, mixed feelings. Obviously, this is a terrible tragedy, Charlie Kirk being murdered, and you don't want your work to play into anybody getting harassed, but I don't think you should blame yourself. You, in my opinion, absolutely did the right thing. As I said, I think you were heroic. It's crazy to me that people would be making death threats to you. Why do people want to death threat you? You were just there. You didn't do anything.
I don't understand it. There's somebody clipped some portions of my video for when I was standing actually over here on this opposing balcony, and I was doing what I was just doing now, or I was in a sea of people that you can see this opposing balcony kind of juts out and has a whole section that sticks out. We can actually walk over there, but there was a sea of people there. I could not get within 20 feet of the railing. And so I was holding the tripod up over my head, and the microphone was attached to it, pointed down, and somebody clipped that and did a slow motion replay and said that I'm saying he's on the roof, and that I was some sort of a
Wow.
spotter involved in getting this guy on the roof somehow. So that was one of the wilder conspiracies that came out of it.
Wow. Yeah, and we've also heard people say that you're a foreign spy and all kinds of things that don't seem to hold
Correct.
water
Yeah,
to
I
me.
have Mossad handlers. I just did a dead drop. There goes my Mossad handlers right now, actually. So,
I mean, of course, I don't like to get into these subjects on the show because it's your personal life and your personal business, but you have publicly told us that you were born and raised as a Mormon, not Jewish, as people have accused you of being, right?
Yeah, Bartholomew, or of English descent, is my understanding. My mom's really big into the genealogy, so I'm sure I can get a more solid answer on that question. But there's a General George Bartholomew, I think. There's a Joseph Bartholomew we're traced back in Massachusetts. So we were definitely I don't get the allegation personally. It's like, but
I guess people
I disagree. I guess you can. Somebody Googled my last name and Google AI says that there's some Jewish origin, but who knows? I'm sure that there's the name Bartholomew's in the Bible, so and I'm sure people may be aware that Jesus was a Jew. So who knows? But that's beyond. That's another thing that's outside of my my expertise. So now we're back right where I was. This area we're standing right now was actually cordoned off so that people couldn't get right above the tent. Let's actually go back over here.
Beautiful sky there. Do you see any drones today, Adam, or any eagles flying around? It seemed like we had a lot of eagles over the valley when you were there.
I saw a couple birds when I was walking in. There was a pigeon that landed and went into a drain pipe, but beyond that, no.
It's a spy.
Let's see.
That pigeon.
Turn it back around. Yes. So now we're looking down.
So that's sort of where Charlie was. You're right
angle.
above where he was.
Yeah. So I'm going to say right about here is where I believe he would have been. Here's an angle pointing at the.
Now, I don't know if I've asked you this, but when you were there, obviously everybody was very surprised, but did you get a personal sense of where you felt the gunfire was coming from?
Yes, definitely.
And where was that? Where did you feel it was coming from?
Let me go back over here.
Yeah.
So there was a sense of the shot itself had an echo effect you can see all the buildings here in the background. It did somewhat echo, especially where I was up here on the balcony. And if you watch my live footage, you'll see that I say, "Was that a firecracker?" And I know my subconscious. I was actually hoping that was the case. But my general sense was, and if I'm standing right about here, this puts me. I'm blocked. You can see the sniper's nest that the FBI has pointed out is blocked by this building
Right.
here. So if we go back where we just were, it does open up. There's a peak of this building, like a big triangle that juts out and
I
blocks
see.
so I wouldn't the audio or the sound from the shockwave from the shot would have been directly blocked by that roof as far as where my position was. And so I think that played a part in that kind of echo sound, but I definitely had a feeling that it could come from this area. And I equate my sense of this to elk hunting, where when you're elk hunting, you're in the mountains and there's ravines and cliffs and all kinds of stuff. So you'll be in one ravine, and maybe 3 ravines over, someone else will shoot, and you gain an idea for their position, even though you're in these little box canyons and you're separated by ridges. So to me, I instinctually knew that it came from that direction. To me, there was no question in my mind that the shot came from there. So that was my immediate thought, And then as soon as we heard that, and I saw John Colin's very complimentary post, and I really appreciated that. But at the end of the day, my wife and kid were down there, and so I didn't have here's where I was. I didn't really have a question. I mean, I didn't have, in my mind, I had no choice but to, go and look and try and spot them. So I was filming this way, and I just instantly went here to see my kid and my wife, and my camera and stuff was attached by cabling, so I couldn't just leave it behind.
Sure. Now, the other thing is, you and I have spoken pretty extensively about the technology that you were using that day and how, perhaps there was a Bluetooth low energy exploit used against you. And you had mentioned to me that you've used this live streaming equipment many, many times. The Mevo cameras have got a sort of auxiliary memory component to them where they're, recording within the camera while you're live streaming, and that September 10th, the Charlie Kirk murder, was the first time in your many years of using this equipment that the internal SD memory card failed to record. Have you used the live streaming system since September 10th, and has the functionality of the SD card returned to normal?
Yeah, that's correct. I haven't used it for several years, probably about 16 months at the time.
Okay.
So I've had them a little over a year. But this was the first time that it didn't record to the SD card. So I have used them since. It has worked since then. So.
And you didn't change any settings or anything, right? It's just a one-time failure of the SD card.
I did have the camera I had the Ethernet connection, and I had enabled NDI mode. However, I've recorded that way successfully before. So on my core, now this is the first time I've done the NDI mode on the little Mevo Start, the smaller camera. So I could have had something incorrect, but I double checked the settings after the fact, and when you hit record, it sets it to record to the SD card. So I'm baffled. Obviously, the way, I think I told you this on our last interview, that I believe it's probably something that I did myself to cause that problem. So however, the live stream itself did cut out on.
Right.
Which was broadcasting from my iPad. So I had all of the networks merged with Speedify, and so my Apple tablet was the streaming culprit there. And my live stream cut out right at the shot. So
right. You know, the other thing, Adam, I don't know, this is
So
the one I think you were talking about before, where we've got another
here we are.
person who is, I guess, live streaming maybe on TikTok. Whoops, we just lost her here. She was live streaming on TikTok or something like that. And she says timestamp 12:22 and 12:23, and it just, boom, it just cuts out. We don't get the
Yes,
shot
see, I saw
on
this.
hers
Yeah,
either.
that was bizarre to see a replicated thing that cut out in the same way that mine did. That is really strange.
I mean, it certainly seems to at least lend credibility to the theory that some sort of electronic disruption was deliberately sort of aimed at that crowd. Maybe.
Potentially, yeah. I was wondering about maybe the shock wave from the gunshot. You know, if that could potentially have some effect. You know, or you know, my other thought was maybe multiple people. You know, right at the time of the shot, though. I mean, there's just, you know, if there's
Yeah.
too many phone calls all at one time, that'll disrupt the network. But having this
There's really
happen,
no.
you know, right then when I was streaming beforehand and right after, I was streaming with no problem. You know, so
Yeah.
definitely a bizarre happening from that stream, and to see that replicated on that lady's TikTok stream is really strange.
It is. It is for sure. Now, just to ask you, I know I appreciate your time. I don't want to press you too hard there, but on your YouTube channel, also, Life is Driving. So this is what I was telling everybody about in our first interview, that I initially saw your live piece, which has got this, where is it here? Here it is, 27 minutes and 23 seconds. Yeah. So under the live tab, this thing is 27 minutes and 23 seconds. So why wasn't it an hour and 6 minutes and just lose a few seconds? Did something else cut off the live stream, or how did this turn out to be 27 minutes?
So that's happened. That's one of the reasons that I came prepared with the Ethernet connections, because in the past, I've been to big events like, for example, the Republican State Convention this year, where my live stream will cut out because there's just too many people on the cell phone networks at once. And so my thought is that the shot happened about 23 minutes into my stream, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
The 27 minutes would be 5 minutes after that. At that point, that's when, like I was suggesting earlier, that's when all 3,500 people were then calling their loved ones, calling their, uploading their videos, calling 911. I know several people were calling 911 as I walked down those stairs and went to the other side of the tent. There were several people were making 911 calls. So at that point, 3,500 people being on the cell phone networks, panicking and calling your loved ones, that kind of thing, that's what shut down the stream, in my opinion, at the 27-minute change mark.
But I guess what I'm asking is, was it periodic dropouts throughout the hour and 7 that you were recording, or you went for another 5 minutes and then it just cut out?
No, so far as I know, it's only that time at the shop. Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
As far as I know, the only time it cut out was when the shot happened. So and then it shut down at 27 minutes and something because the cell phone networks were overwhelmed.
Got it. Overloaded. So, right. And that's why you had an hour and 9 recorded here. Got it. Well, I'll tell you, Adam, it's an amazing story. It's an amazing bit of work that you've done. Is there anything else that you want to cover, or anything else you want to show us there on campus while we have you there today?
I think we've covered pretty much all of it. I brought my nicer camera. I was going to get some zoom shots from down underneath the tunnel up towards the FBI's recorded sniper nest area. So, but I could not make my nice camera work on the Zoom call. I apologize.
No, it's totally okay, Adam. I appreciate this, mobile coverage of the site. It's been really, I think, very enlightening. I want to remind people to follow you on X at Life is Driving. Follow your Life is Driving YouTube channel. Follow Media Utah. That's Adam's affiliate. They help him out with the live streaming software, and they're bringing local stories and trying to do essentially the same kind of thing that I'm doing, not rely on the mainstream news. Anything else you want to talk about or mention?
No, I appreciate you giving me the time, Jason. It's good to see you again. And Um, I appreciate the recognition, sir.
It's great to see you, Adam. I really appreciate your work, and I appreciate all of the viewers who sponsor Crowdsource the Truth. I appreciate that you are pushing back on my theories. People don't have to agree with my theories to be on the show or to be friends and associates. I also want to make sure that people know that if they go to crowdsourcethetruth.org, I don't know if you know this, Adam, I've started an evidence bounty where I'm paying. People seem to misunderstand that I'm trying to get money. I'm offering money. And if anyone wants to contribute to this bounty could go to anyone at all. This is a research fund. And the way I've set it up, it's important for people to understand that this is not a bet. This is not a wager. This is not a sweepstakes. This is not a gambling or anything like that at all. This is like when J. Jonah Jameson would say, I'll pay $500 for a picture of Spider-Man, and he puts out an open call to journalists, photographers, any expert in any field whatsoever can come forward, and if they can offer a theory that first of all refutes the measured claims that I've made regarding Charlie Kirk being shot from behind. In other words, explain how these images that I allege are projectiles, how they got there on video if they aren't projectiles, and give us the alternate theory that explains why this is wrong. They have an opportunity to receive this bounty. This is an evidence bounty, and someone can claim that if they have a better scientific theory. So far, no one has even followed through with stepping up to the plate to debate me on my theory. Several anonymous people on X have threatened to do that, but the terms and conditions are laid out here on crowdsourcethetruth.org. Anybody who wants to offer research can get this money from a research fund that I've established with $1,000 of my own money. Other viewers or anyone at all who likes this idea and wants to contribute to the likelihood that someone will come forward with their own research can put in their own money. And we've had viewers of Crowdsource the Truth who have used credit cards and cryptocurrency. Anybody can do this. You can put in any amount of money that you want. And if someone comes along with a better theory than me, they're going to receive this payment. And this is a challenge, an evidence bounty that I've put in place until November 4th. And people can read the terms and service there. If on November 4th no one has come forward with a theory that supersedes my own, then the money stays with Crowdsource the Truth. But that's the idea, Adam. It's almost like when they started to talk about quantum physics, a lot of traditional physicists told the scientists their hypotheses were crazy. But over time, you test these theories, and if no one can disprove a hypothesis, it starts to become a strong theory, and it remains in practice. So anyway, that's that bit right there. Thanks again for joining us, Adam.
Very cool.
I hope people will follow you on Life is Driving. And don't forget, everyone, you can sponsor Crowdsource the Truth and support the work here by going to crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com and patreon.com. You can follow me on X at JG_CSTT. Thanks again to Adam Bartholomew and his historic journalistic coverage of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I'll see you soon, Adam. Take care.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate it. And I think you would make a great J. Jonah Jameson, by the way.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
See ya. See ya. Yeah.